You know, usually when we analyze predator-prey dynamics in nature, we're looking at, well, brute force, or maybe just simple camouflage.
Right, like a lion in the tall grass.
Exactly, or a shark coming up from below. You see the teeth, you recognize the threat, and your amygdala just instantly floods your system with adrenaline.
It just screams at you to run.
Yeah, it's clean, it's biological, it makes complete evolutionary sense. But today, we are taking you on a deeply unsettling deep dive into a stack of sources that just completely shatters that dynamic.
Oh, absolutely shatters it.
We are unpacking the meticulously documented and frankly just terrifying lore of Route 66B.
Yeah.
For those of you who follow anomalies, you know this as that abandoned 80-mile stretch of dense pine forest near the Arizona and New Mexico border.
Right, the one the truckers actively refuse to drive near.
Yeah, they just call it Skinwalker Road.
And looking at the sheer volume of data we have on this region, it is it's an incredibly complex landscape to analyze. Officially, authorities have always dismissed the staggering number of disappearances here as just extreme isolation or driver exhaustion.
Or wildlife. Right.
Yeah, wildlife encounters.
Huh.
But when you bypass that official PR and actually synthesize the raw source material, the police reports, the recovered audio, the leaked case files, a singular, undeniable pattern emerges. And I mean, it has absolutely nothing to do with wolves or fatigue.
Right. And analyzing that pattern is basically the core mission of our deep dive today. Because what we're looking at in these sources is, well, it's the ultimate weaponization of human empathy.
That's a great way to put it.
Because every single victim's story in these files, it doesn't start with a monster jumping out of the shadows. It begins with an overwhelming instinct to stop and help a familiar face stranded on the side of a dark road.
It's a trap.
It's exactly like a highly targeted, sophisticated phishing attack. But instead of, a hacker spoofing your bank's email to steal your password, this forest is exploiting your deepest, most primal emotional attachments to steal you.
What's fascinating here is how these entities bypass our biological survival instincts entirely. Because think about the situational context for a second.
Okay.
If you were driving down an unlit, pitch-black highway in the middle of nowhere, basic logic dictates you lock the doors and you keep your foot on the gas.
Oh, 100%. Any stranger waving you down should be a massive cognitive red flag.
Right. But by wearing the faces of the people we are neurologically hardwired to protect, these entities create a sort of psychological override. The emotional pull just completely suppresses the rational fear response.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the 1998 case is really where the operational baseline of this phenomenon was established. But I have some major questions about the mechanics here.
Sure, yeah.
For those of you listening who know the lore, you probably remember the setup. A married couple is driving through this forest at midnight, and right in their headlights, they see the teenage son waving frantically from the side of the road.
Looking like he's in deep distress.
Right. So obviously they slam on the brakes. But the paradox is their son is fast asleep in the backseat of their car.
He's literally right there.
Exactly. So wait, if the entities can copy a person sitting right there in the vehicle, does that mean they aren't just reading the physical environment, but they're actively reading the driver's mind in real time?
Yeah, that is exactly the distinction that separates this from your standard urban legend. It's not an environmental trap. It is a cognitive interception.
Wow.
The entity isn't scanning the car. It is scanning the driver's neural pathways. It's identifying the subject of their highest emotional attachment and then projecting that exact image back at them.
That's terrifying.
And the physical evidence left behind corroborates this highly coordinated predatory behavior. 3 days after that couple stopped, police found their car abandoned. Engine was still running. Doors wide open, family gone.
But there were footprints, right?
Yes. The only forensic evidence left behind were dozens of bare human footprints in the mud, perfectly circling the vehicle, just over and over again.
Which indicates they were being observed or, I don't know, surrounded by a swarm before they were taken. But for a long time, this was just an oral tradition, right? Just a spooky story truckers told to keep awake.
Yeah, mostly anecdotal.
Right, but that changes completely when we introduce the 2019 data leak.
Yeah.
Because suddenly we don't just have missing persons reports anymore, we have a digital record, tangible visual evidence.
Exactly. The 14 minutes of leaked body cam footage from Deputy Marcus Hale. I mean, this is the inflection point in the data.
And when I first read the Hale file, I was incredibly skeptical, I'll admit it. It reads like a classic internet hoax. Hale is on this ordinary patrol route on 66B in the pouring rain. He's actually, he's joking into his radio about the local ghost stories.
Right, totally relaxed.
Yeah, but then his headlights catch a barefoot woman in a soaked white dress. He steps out of the cruiser and he just whispers, "Emily." And the camera zooms in to reveal it is his wife.
But his wife died of cancer 6 months earlier. The department records completely confirm this.
So put yourself in Deputy Hale's shoes for a second. Your logical brain knows your wife has passed away, you have the death certificate, but your visual cortex is screaming that she is standing right there in the hammering rain.
It induces immediate cognitive dissonance. And the audio logs from that body cam are, well, they're really difficult to analyze because of the sheer psychological distress you can hear.
Yeah, you can hear his breathing change.
Exactly. Hale slowly approaches her, and his breathing becomes incredibly uneven, just ragged on the microphone. The entity doesn't speak. It just tilts its head in this highly unnatural, almost avian manner, and then it smiles.
Here's where it gets really interesting, psychologically speaking, because that smile is the focal point of the horror across all the data sets.
It's the one constant.
Right. Witnesses consistently describe the smiles as just wrong, like stretched unnaturally wide. And we need to talk about the uncanny valley effect here. Our brains possess this highly specialized region called the fusiform face area.
Right. It's purely dedicated to recognizing human facial expressions.
Exactly, with like micromillimeter accuracy. So when a smile stretches just a fraction of an inch beyond actual human anatomical limits, it instantly shatters the illusion.
It's the predator's camouflage failing.
Yeah. It understands the shape of human emotion, but it lacks the underlying neuromuscular context to replicate it accurately.
That is a crucial observation.
Yeah.
And it completely dismantles the most popular internet theories surrounding the Hale footage.
Like the spore theory.
Right. Skeptics propose that the forest contains naturally occurring hallucinogenic spores, or that's a localized chemical leak. But spores do not produce a shared, objective visual anomaly across hundreds of independent witnesses.
Hallucinogens don't make everyone see the exact same geometric distortion of the jawline.
Exactly. The smile is a physical, measurable characteristic of the phenomenon. And the aftermath of the Hale video aligns perfectly with the 1998 case.
Mile marker 14, right.
Yes. His cruiser was found near mile marker 14, driver's side door open, surrounded by hundreds of barefoot tracks repeatedly circling the vehicle.
So Hale's body cam footage goes viral, and it acts as this massive catalyst. It shifts the entire narrative from accidental tragic encounters to deliberate investigation.
Bringing outsiders in.
Right. Which brings us to journalist Lena Brooks and her cameraman, Noah Pierce. They head out to Route 66B 6 months after the Hale leak because Lena noticed something in the raw video file that everyone else missed.
A tiny detail in the background.
Yeah. Right before Hale's body cam cuts out, in a single frame, there are other faces visible between the trees. It wasn't just the entity wearing his wife's face. It was an entire swarm of them just watching from the tree line.
Which fundamentally changes the threat assessment. They aren't dealing with a solitary anomaly anymore. And when Brooks and Pierce head to the highway, they are given a very blunt warning by an elderly Navajo man at a nearby gas station.
Oh man, this part gave me chills. Lena asks him, "What are they?"
And his response is a single word: hunting. He warns them that if they see someone they love, do not stop the car. It perfectly frames the reality of the situation. They're deliberately driving into an active hunting ground.
So they hit the road after sunset. Fog rolling in, steady rain, total darkness. For hours, Noah has the cameras rolling continuously with no activity.
Building the tension?
Yeah. Then suddenly, Lena sees her brother standing perfectly still beside the road, wearing the exact red jacket he had on when he died 12 years earlier.
And keep in mind, Lena's brother drowned when she was 16.
Right. But there he is. So Lena floors the gas pedal to speed past him. And as they do, Noah quietly, shakily admits he didn't see Lena's brother. He saw his mother.
Now, this is a massive escalation in the mechanics of the trap. We hypothesized earlier that the entities scan the driver's neural pathways. But this incident proves they possess the cognitive bandwidth to project divergent, bespoke illusions simultaneously to multiple observers.
In the exact same physical space, Lena's brain got one projection, Noah's got another.
Right. But then, the phenomenon shifts from visual manipulation to auditory hacking. The car radio turns on by itself.
It's hissing with static, and underneath the interference, there are overlapping voices, crying, begging.
It's absolute chaos.
And then, clear as day, a familiar voice whispers through the speakers.
Don't pull over, they learn your memories. It's the voice of Deputy Marcus Hale.
Noah nearly swerves off the road in panic.
I would too. And Hale's warning is immediately followed by a woman screaming, and the audio log registers these acoustic anomalies consistent with the wet crunch of breaking bones.
Incredibly graphic. Now, I have to challenge the sources here because the implications are just staggering. If they are using Hale's voice on the radio, does that mean they assimilate the victims? Do they absorb human consciousness? Or is this just biological mimicry, like a predatory bird copying a distress call?
I would argue it is far more malevolent and sophisticated than simple biological mimicry.
Right.
A lyrebird mimicking a chainsaw doesn't understand what a chainsaw is. It just repeats the frequency.
Right.
But this entity broadcasted Hale's specific warning not to pull over, fully understanding the context, purely to induce maximum psychological terror.
So they're not just playing a tape recorder.
No. They are utilizing his absorbed consciousness to orchestrate panic. And it works perfectly because right after the radio dies, the tree ambush is triggered.
The ultimate stress test of human empathy. Noah slams on the brakes because a figure steps right into the middle of the wet pavement. The SUV skids and stops inches away from an 8-year-old girl.
Barefoot, shivering in the headlights.
Crying softly, Lena is begging Noah not to get out of the car, and the little girl walks right up to the windshield and says, "Mister, I can't find my parents."
Look at the sheer tactical brilliance of that projection. The voice modulation is perfectly normal. The visual reads as terrified and helpless. Who among us, listening to this right now, could honestly put a car in drive and run over a distressed 8-year-old child?
I don't think I could.
It is the absolute pinnacle of weaponized empathy. They found the universal lock to the human heart.
But then the mask slips. The little girl smiles, ear to ear, revealing rows of thin needle-like animal teeth. Noah throws the SUV into reverse, but the girl doesn't even blink. She just stands there in the headlights, smiling.
And that's when the woods come alive.
Dozens of figures emerge from the dark, surrounding the car. Dead grandfathers, ex-lovers, missing friends, all of them projecting that impossible, uncanny valley smile.
It confirms Lena's initial analysis of the Hale video, the swarm strategy. But notice their behavior. They don't immediately attack the vehicle.
Right, they just present the driver with an overwhelming gallery of emotional attachments.
Just overloading them.
Until the physical breach happens. A face slams onto the windshield from the roof of the car. It's Noah's mother. And the sources note her jaw unhinges unnaturally as she smiles down at him.
That's the breaking point.
Yeah, at this point, Noah completely loses his rationality and accelerates blindly through the crowd. The figures don't scream, they don't give chase, they just scatter into the dark and watch the SUV speed away.
But escaping the physical ambush just drops them into an even more terrifying reality. Because the entities don't just manipulate memories. The spatial distortion begins.
Oh man, this is where it gets so trippy.
This is where we shift from cognitive hacking to environmental manipulation. As they flee, Lena's logs indicate the topography of the road itself begins to break down.
The physical reality of Route 66B just stops making sense. They pass the exact same bridge repeatedly, even though they're driving in a straight line at high speed.
The mile markers on the side of the road start looping backward.
The GPS completely flatlines. And most chillingly, strange faces begin flashing in the rearview mirror. Faces of people who are absolutely not sitting in the back seat.
We really have to ask how this spatial distortion functions. Are the entities literally bending the physical geometry of the highway? Or are they suppressing the grid cells in the victims' brains, the part responsible for spatial navigation, causing them to drive in circles while hallucinating a straight line?
Wow, so their internal map is just wiped.
Exactly. Either way, this is classic apex predator behavior elevated to an anomalous level. You isolate the prey, you exhaust their resources, and you completely remove their cognitive map of escape. By looping the road, the forest is closing the jaws of the trap.
Which brings us to the climax of the Brooks investigation. Recorded at exactly 3:43 a.m., the engine dies completely. The SUV rolls to a stop, and the forest goes dead silent.
No wind, no insects, just a vacuum.
The audio logs show absolute 0 decibels. And then there is a gentle tapping on the driver's side window.
This moment represents the complete collapse of the victim's psychological defenses.
Lena turns her head slowly toward the glass, and she sees her own face staring back at her from outside the car.
Her doppelganger.
Same eyes, same hair, exact same clothes. But the smile is stretched impossibly wide across her own cheeks. The doppelganger presses a hand softly against the glass and speaks in Lena's exact voice. It just says, "You stopped."
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is the ultimate evolution of their hunting strategy. Throughout the night, they were digging into the archives, copying memories of the dead, projecting past traumas to lure the prey out.
Right.
But here, at the very end, they didn't copy a memory. They copied the prey sitting right in front of them, in real time. It signals absolute physical and psychological domination.
There's nowhere left to hide.
Exactly. The entity is essentially communicating that your ego, your self-image, has been completely compromised.
And the recovered camera footage fails right after that statement. The file just corrupts into static. Lena Brooks and Noah Pierce officially vanished on October 18th, 2024.
And their vehicle.
3 days later, following the exact same pattern as Marcus Hale, their SUV was found near mile marker 14, engine cold, doors wide open, surrounded by hundreds of barefoot human tracks in the mud.
A profoundly grim, yet scientifically consistent conclusion to their investigation.
So, bringing us back to the present reality, Route 66B is now permanently closed to the public. The state quietly installed massive concrete barricades at both entrances.
But that doesn't stop it entirely.
No, because even with the road completely blocked off, the truckers driving the new interstate miles away still report seeing figures standing alone beneath the pine trees during heavy storms, frantically waving for help.
Looking entirely human.
Until they smile. So what does this all mean? When you distill all these files and forensics down, it forces you to confront a deeply uncomfortable hypothetical.
For you, the listener.
Right. If you were driving completely alone at night and your headlights watched over the person you love most in this world, shivering in the freezing rain, what would your brain actually do?
Could you just keep driving?
Exactly. Could you truly keep your foot on the gas, even if every ounce of logic and deductive reasoning screams that it is a lethal trap? This whole deep dive is a terrifying thought experiment about whether our empathy, the very evolutionary trait that allowed humanity to build societies, is actually a fatal vulnerability.
A bug in our biological code waiting to be exploited. And that raises one final, lingering question that the source files never fully resolve.
About the radio broadcast.
Yes, it goes back to that radio intercept at the height of the ambush. If Deputy Hale's voice was broadcasting over the speakers, warning Lena and Noah not to pull over, was his consciousness actively resisting assimilation? Was a piece of human empathy surviving beyond the veil, fighting to protect the living?
Or is that just what we hope is true?
Exactly. Was the forest simply synthesizing a recording of his fading consciousness, playing it back purely to mock its next victims? It really leaves you to mull over what actually happens to the minds of the people who step out of their cars.